Not only thinking in terms of days and months or maybe few years, but 10 years down the line.
The main thing that is happening over there is that thinking is being outsourced.
I think it can be considered in the same league as fire and electricity. We can already see the strides being made and how this is impacting work across the domains. When big four accounting firms like PwC are already doing it, that sets the examples.
Welcome, Robin sir. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Like over the past few years, I have interacted with so many business leaders for AI adoption in Nepal, in India, and you are one of those people who, like, from the first time I've met you, I've always felt that this is the kind of professional who is really adopting AI very, very fast, and then using the tools, using the technology, trying to understand the nuances of it, because finance as an industry, the way the outside world would view it, has a very different connotation around innovation. It has to be regulated. It has to have a certain structure. It is not a sector which can go through rapid disruption so fast. It's going to impact so many different scenarios. So there is a bit of a image on how the finance industry generally is from an outsider's perspective in regards to innovation. But when I met you, and then when we engaged with the ACCA community over here, it has been a new experience for me as well to really see, oh, okay, finance professionals are so innovative in themselves, so adaptive themselves. So I think I've been following a lot of what you post on LinkedIn, and what you talk to the community. And also after I met you, I met a lot more people and talked about how you are adapting to it, and how that is a good approach. So I'm very excited to this conversation. So to start with, maybe we can start with your personal journey, as how did you get into ACCA? How did you get into finance as a career? Where did it start? So if we can start there, and then we
Sure,
can start.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Many thanks once again. And just commenting on the earlier point that you talked about, and as I shared earlier as well, and thanks for that compliment that I have been trying to use technology, stay on the forefront of it.
Yeah.
But when I reflect myself, what I have witnessed in myself is that I'm just trying to understand what the latest trends are there, how we can leverage on the latest technologies that are there, and how we can optimize to deliver an effective and efficient work.
Yeah.
But to my surprise, I see that the community still needs to stay on the forefront of it. The community still needs to make progress in that area. So to me, it comes naturally, but I now can see and realize that things need to be done in that regards. Now coming back to your question. In terms of how I started my career,
Yeah.
basically, so I was from science background.
Okay.
Initially.
Okay.
And I was very much into science, and I always admired physicists like Newton, Einstein, Feynman, Dirac, and I was always fascinated by them. So theoretical physics, I would say, was something that I was very passionate about.
Okay.
And in fact, I come from eastern region in Nepal, Dhamkuta, and I came to Kathmandu actually to pursue a BSc.
Okay.
So that because that had been my passion to be a
Yeah.
theoretical physicist, and to come up with some theories, some latest advancements in the field of physics. So I then enrolled into Trichandra College.
Okay.
But subsequently, what happened is it came as a reality shock to me.
Okay.
Because I had not researched a lot. And what I later realized was that the infrastructure, the resources, the teaching, learning, pedagogy, the examination system. So it dawned early on me that these were not going to support me in realizing that passion of mine, that ambition of mine.
Yeah.
So I had not factored in anything else. So as a fallback plan, as a
Yeah.
contingency plan, So as I said, that came as a reality shock to me. And what then I thought was, so of course I would need to have a career. I would need to earn and then sustain myself. So let me think of a plan to do that. Actually, as I shared earlier, finance was not a natural choice for me.
Okay.
So it came as a secondary choice. But then what I also felt was that I can always continue my passion. So I can always self read, you self grow.
Okay.
I can do my own research. I can always delve into these fields, but I need to have a sustainable career.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into finance. That's how I got into ACCA basically. But then the journey has been rewarding. Journey has been enriching. I have developed a lot of acquaintances, and I have grown professionally, personally. But the actual journey, if I recall, actually looks like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Do you think your like innate curiosity, wanting to go to physics, wanting to pursue it, and then obviously the ecosystem here probably not supporting that kind of scenario? Do you think that is what is also enabling you to be so at the forefront of the AI adoption that we see right now?
I would definitely say so because what dropped me to physics and why I was so passionate about physics is because I had a natural curiosity to get into the root of things. So to understand universe, to understand life, to understand consciousness, to understand how things work. And there was always that natural curiosity in me. So even if I am, let's say, in the finance sector, and I am facilitating the finance community here in Nepal, so that natural curiosity is always there in me. So that also leads me to explore what's happening, let's say, in the field of biotech, or let's say in the field of artificial intelligence, or even in the geopolitical arena, or even in the field of philosophy and all that. So there is that natural curiosity in me, and I would definitely concur with how you characterize that. My interest in that might have possibly led to me to explore all these latest developments.
This is more of a been a recent realization for me. Um, I see the rapid adoption of AI in one sense, and then I see people some kind of people adapting to it, some kind of people not adapting to it. And to my surprise, I see a lot of technical people not adapting to it as much as, like, because using AI is not just about using ChatGPT to code or using some tools. It is about really rethinking how do we run our workflows. And obviously, that might not be perfect at this point of time, but then there is a direction of how someone can actually become AI native. So I see that a big gap on even the technical audience as well. And then once that realization has dawned on me, I have actually started working with a lot of technical people as well to really see how can we use the current AI technologies and their progression to actually embed that into the workflows. So in this scenario, as you've been so vocal about the use of AI, and then you've yourself been using it, how do you see the finance community over here? And probably you also could also please comment on the finance community, that is the ACC is global community, how it is adapting to the rise of AI as a technology.
So I think what you described just now, that translates across all domains. Um, Technical people, so not being at the forefront, but the non-technical people being curious about it and then embracing it and all that. And just as let's say. IT is a domain, finance is a domain, even let's say medicine is a domain. I would say that that spans across all fields, but I would also say that it's a natural condition of human mind. So I had earlier read this book, The Innovator's Dilemma. So what happens is whenever there is, let's say, a disruptive technology, so people think about the customers that they are serving and the current, let's say, technologies yielding them profit margin, and they don't want to shake it, they don't want to disturb it. So similarly, let's say technical people, they are using certain technology, and they have a comfort with it. They have been used to it over a period of time, and so there naturally arises a resistance to change. So not only from one's own perspective, but how the customers who are being served using these technologies would react. So there is always that lens. So as I said earlier, that spans across all the domains. But then forward thinking is also necessary. Because what then happens is that you either adapt or you phase out. So there are no in betweens. So one also needs to adapt. And when it comes to ACCA, so as I have said multiple times, the tagline of ACCA itself is think ahead. So we always try to be at the forefront so that our members and future members community can be best served by what we are doing. So recently there has been qualification changes to ACCA. So we have introduced elements of AI, sustainability, ethics, data, all these elements into our syllabus. And so recently we also concluded a half a day conference in AI. But then AI has always been our focus area. So last year AI was one of our themes, and this year embracing innovative tech, so including AI, is our major theme, and we have been conducting a lot of researches into this area. But then when it comes to Nepal and globally, I definitely agree with how you characterized it, that technical people and even in the finance domain, people have a long way to go to fully exploit it and to leverage its potential.
Yeah. I think it actually pretty much came to me as surprise, or maybe it was a blind spot that got created, because like when we look at software engineers, when we look at people that build products, or like people do front end engineering, back end engineering, it was a scenario like in my head, mental model was, okay, it's AI technology. This is something that people would be they will find pretty intuitive to adapt to. But then the actual question is not really the tool. The actual question is, what is going to be the new workflow for you to work in the post AI world? That is where the question is. So that is where I see a gap. And I think something that I've seen very beautiful with the ACCA community over here is that it is a community first, right? So it is a community of the truest sense. When I say truest sense, there are really amazing learning events. When I met the HCCA community, the interactions they were having, the kind of trust they had with each other was beautiful to see. I think that goes a long way. So when there is a frontier technology like AI that is coming, and then there is so much of uncertainty around it, how much of role do you see of a community playing in that scenario? And as a community leader, like what is the kind of active steps do you actually take in that direction?
Right, right. So I think a community has an immense role to play in this, and I think having a community always makes it easier to exploit the latest developments that are there, and then also to have that learning cascaded across. So when it comes to ACCA, so as you shared that we do learning events, we do community building events as well. And as I shared that we have tried to explore this domain of AI as well. We have conducted researches as well, and then we have conducted conferences as well. So whatever findings are there, whatever resources are there, we try to cascade it through the community. And in community, what happens is that whenever there is an individual or a group of individuals who have done something in that regards, so they become the role models as well, they become the trendsetters as well. And we at ACC also try to cascade that story, so that case study, so that people see what's happening and how they can replicate it. Even if not the same, similar situations can be there, and how they can replicate that across the work that they do. And at ACC, what is helpful is that, so it's not a country specific community, so it's a global community. So not only within Nepal, but the kind of things that are being done outside of Nepal as well. And if there are similar applications, so that can also be an example. And through testimonials, through case studies, through exchanges, and through sharing. So I think having a community has been very helpful. But then what I'm also say is it is useful, it's helpful, but then there is yet a lot which has to be done in that regards, and we have not fully exploited its potential when it comes to creating that awareness and creating that readiness within the community itself.
Just a follow-up question to that. The technology is moving fast, and then obviously there is so much of learning and so much of development that is happening. How do you think you can use community as a multiplier of that learning? Because we can learn a lot in silos, but then till the time we bring it out, we practice on something, we build something, it's probably not going to be real. It is probably going to be a bit theoretical in the truest sense. So how do you see, how do you, like, let's say, even if we see ACCA in Nepal, how do you think it can be leveraged as a community to multiply that learning process and make it faster?
So, just a simple example. What I myself have tried to do is so because there's a community and I have a voice, and each of the community members has the voice.
Yeah.
So, what I myself, a simple example I've tried to do is, so whenever I use these technologies and I see its practical application, take for example, deep research,
Yeah.
or maybe memory in Chat GPT,
Yeah.
or any other such tools, maybe even graphic illustration through images in Chat GPT. So I try to share these examples across social platforms like LinkedIn, wherein people can see how these technologies can be leveraged, how these tools can be leveraged, and how they can be applied to real life situation, to work, and then people seeing it, using it, and then that information being disseminated. So that possibility is also there. But then something that can be done, but which has not yet been tried, I would say that we can have focus groups, especially focused on AI, and then people networking in it, and then reaching out to different, let's say, even employers, even other stakeholders, and building those case studies, maybe producing some sort of newsletters and amplifying that through our platforms. So all those possibilities are there. And now is this technology gains space, and then people want to see examples of how this can be leveraged, how this can be exploited. We will be looking to do more of this, and then we would invite feedback, suggestions, inputs from the community as well, and that we will keep fine tuning and refining.
Yeah. Okay. So, based on what you shared till now, it's pretty clear that the leader's influence in the community in today's time is going to be pretty critical, and the communities that are led by very AI native leaders are going to have some kind of advantage. So, this can be more community agnostic, that is applicable to any community, because there's so many different kinds of communities where there are leaders. What do you think is the archetype of a leader who is an AI native leader right now? What are the kind of qualities that the person would probably need to have, or what are the kind of things that person needs to do, according to, because you've been doing it yourself? How would you categorize as top 5 traits or skill sets that community leader should have in today's time?
That's a loaded question, and we'll take some reflection, I would say, to come up with the specific characteristics. But one thing that instantly comes to my mind is curiosity. And I talk about curiosity a lot. So curiosity, natural curiosity. So curiosity for the sake of curiosity means there need not necessarily be an outcome. Let's say outcome in the sense of work effectiveness, work efficiency, better organization, workflows, and all that. But a natural curiosity. So natural curiosity in the sense of what's happening at the frontier end, and how things are evolving. So in any domain, whether it's in technology, as I shared earlier, maybe politics, maybe economics, maybe any domain that can be. So that natural curiosity needs to be there. And a leader in this AI age, I think, would need to have that curiosity. And things are interdisciplinary and things are interconnected. So that's why you need to know how things influence each other, and that natural curiosity needs to be there. The other attribute, so first was curiosity. The other attribute I would say is resilience. So resilience in the sense that things will change, things will continue to change. So sometimes there will be incremental impacts, sometimes there will be massive impacts. So resilience is a quality needs to be there, because you are not only working alone, but you are working with people. And people might be impacted in different ways. So every day we hear people being laid off because of this technology, that technology, even because of AI and all that. So as a leader, do you have the resilience or not to navigate these changes? So of course, resilience and curiosity bit that I talked about. And then of course, people focus. So if people focus can be said is a quality. So I'm just thinking out loud, but people focus needs to be there, in the sense that all individuals don't learn at the same pace. Of course, you would want people to be at the cutting edge, to try out things, to develop themselves, to grow, to develop, and all that. But people don't learn at the same pace, and you have to account for that. You have to discount for that. So what system, what mechanism do you adopt, do you adapt to take people along with you in this journey of change, so that people focus needs to be there. So three qualities that I talked about. The other, I would say, is strategic thinking. So not only thinking in terms of days and months or maybe few years, but 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 15 years down the line. So having that strategic focus and designing system and processes. So you are not optimizing just for outputs, you are optimizing for long-term sustained results that benefits the community, that benefits the organization as a whole. So that strategic outlook needs to be there. And if it can be said as a quality, I'm not sure, but the last one that I would say is second order thinking. So let me explain it further. So second order thinking, in a sense that we just think about the first order effects. For example, if I do this, then this thing will happen. So that's just first order effect. But if I do this, this thing will happen, and then this thing will lead to this thing. So because it's a complex system, there are so many variables, and so many variables are interacting with each other. So when the AI thing actually strides fast, already it is striding fast, but then as the pace of change picks up even further, so when I'm designing system, when I'm designing processes, when I'm developing people, so what are the second order effects as well? How it will have non-linear effects throughout the organization, throughout the society. So these 5 attributes, I think a leader needs to have. Of course, there can be others as well. We can reflect and think about them. But these are a few that come to my mind immediately.
There's something that came in our last conversation as well, which was around resilience as a hard skill.
Right.
And then you mentioned it today as well as one of the very very critical skills for leaders. This is just my perspective and my observation. I totally believe it needs to be a hard skill, and I see leaders who will probably be a bit reluctant to be resilient, not moving in the direction of AI as fast as it might be. So the pace of change is fast. Most of the things will fail, and only the resilient leaders will be able to survive that change.
Right.
But I also feel that the total group or total volume of leaders who are very, very resilient is probably not as much as what the adoption of change would actually need. And that's probably why there are smaller progresses happening, smaller projects happening in organizations. But then, as you mentioned, strategic thinking long term, because in today's time, if you want to build an AI strategy, if you are not looking at 3 to 5 years down the line, then it is just going to be a project that's going to be on the shelf.
True.
And there are also cases where people have tried multiple things and then given up on the technology. So in this scenario, do you think it is it is an observation that makes sense to you?
Of course, totally. There is this thing, and you might also have heard about it, the Pareto principle, where we say that 80% of the results is driven by 20% of the input. For example, 80% of your revenue is driven by 20% of the customers, and things like that. So accordingly, in the real world, it's the few people who actually spearhead the change, who actually deliver the change, and who actually produce results. So not all people will buy it, not all people will move in tandem. So there will be few who will actually be working on it, delivering it. Take for example, the trillion-dollar companies these days, like Microsoft or even Nvidia, or maybe even successful companies like SpaceX. So we do know how resilient the leaders were, in the sense that it might even sound irrational what they were already doing. So, but it's just these few people who persist with all the difficulties, who persist with all the uncertainties, and who then actually deliver the change. So I would say that's a very right observation, and even a natural condition of human beings. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So if I am a individual, if I am a, let's say, plus two graduate or a high school graduate right now, and I'm listening to what you just said, how do I build resilience? It is not something that is taught everywhere.
True.
And then in the today's post AI world, it is a critical skill set to have. But then how does one develop resilience in your frame?
So I think this is a very critical question. This is a very important question, because if you look at the attributes of Gen Z, and then we say Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, who are coming up, and this is not let's say criticism or anything, so to say, but then resilience is a skill. I think already it was underrated, but now even more. People want quick results. People want things to their liking immediately, so there is no sense of delayed gratification and things like that. So I would not blame the generation or things like that. It's the effect, or so to say, compound effect of everything that we have been doing, the systems that we have been building. That's why we talked about the first order effects, second order effects earlier. So we develop a system with the best of intentions, but then we are not seeing the long term results 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. So there is that situation, and I think it's a very important thing to look at. So if as you asked, what can let's say high school pass out do to build resilience, and I always think from an interdisciplinary perspective, and sometimes I see things like stories, myths, narratives, the grand narratives losing their value, and they are being ridiculed, and it's always rational thinking, it's always scientific thinking and all that. So when such things are ridiculed over time, then the power those things had to force character, to build resilience, to delay gratification and to aspire for long-term results, the sort of heroes, the sort of villains, and all these things had real and immense value. But now is they are ridiculed, is they are shunned, and everything is scientific thinking, rational thinking, then people accordingly move in that direction. So one thing I would say is reading, wider reading. So reading does not have to be in one particular domain, let's say fiction or non-fiction, or this writer or that writer, but the more you read widely, the more you know about characters. Sometimes I say that fiction are more factual than even history books, because fictions have such characters in them which persevere over time, which do wrong things and then produce certain results, but then embrace them and then grow and all that. And there are great writers who you can study and all that. So I think reading as a habit, reading as a skill is underlooked, and in this day and age is even I mean, lower in the pecking order. But my own experience is that reading is very instrumental and very helpful in building resilience. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, so when you understand and realize that resilience is a skill is very important, you then consciously begin to do things which help develop resilience. So first step is realizing that resilience as a skill is important, and then consciously working on it. So let's say if you produce a certain result, then persist with it. Try to obtain an outcome in that. If things are not working, just don't shun them and move on to the next thing that you can do. Just try and produce result in those things. And even let's say the regular chores that we do, the routine stuffs that we do, people get bored of it. But when you persist through boredom as well, sometimes people can't sit alone in a room even for 30 minutes. They need to engage with their phones and all that and these sort of things. But if you persist through boredom, then also resilience is a skill can be developed. So there are many facets, I would say. But then these are some of the things that obviously come to my mind.
One thing that probably is a bit transferable as well is probably writing as well.
True.
Is what I'm seeing, because and it has direct relation to prompting. So right now, in most cases, what I'm seeing is we have so many things in the head,
True.
We can write it to the computer,
Mhm.
and the computer cannot perform.
True.
And in today's time, to use these technologies, if we do not have the right prompting skills, we are probably not going to get anything.
Exactly.
And I think these things look, and I think like my realization in AI has been that there are some things that are so simple, so obvious that they get ignored. But without doing it, we can't actually leverage the technology.
True.
Let's say we are talking to, let's say any student or any professional is talking to ChatGPT or Gemini or building some agents over there. If they are not spending a lot of time to write a lot of write that prompt very granularly on a very detailed manner, then the result is not going to be so great. So I think we see a bit of a transferable skills, and well, I think it's probably is going to be very helpful for more and more people to adapt to it, realize it, and I think like move in that direction for sure.
Exactly. So when you talk about writing, so I recently read an ex post from Paul Graham, and I very much read his essays, and I'm influenced by him, and I totally agree with how he characterized. So these days, how people are mostly using Chat GPT and other LLMs is that they are generating content. So they are giving a prompt and they are generating content. So write a letter, write an email, write this thing, write that thing, and all that. So which is fine, but then his emphasis was writing is thinking. When you basically write down something, you are thinking through the thing. You are structurizing it. You are making it minimal. You are making it optimal in the least possible words, in the simplistic of the ways how you can convey something. So that's writing. But when people are delegating writing more and more to LLMs, they lose their thinking ability as well. Of course, you can use it to generate written content, but that you have to use as a collaborative tool.
Yeah.
So something you see, you improvise on, you take bits from it, and then you work your own thing. But writing is a skill, I would say, is of paramount importance.
Yeah. And I think this is something that as more and more people use the technologies, there would probably be no option than to get better at it.
True.
And I think like when teaching students, I see a big problem here that let's say, for example, let's take an example of a student doing an assignment, putting the assignment questions on ChatGPT, producing an output. There is an output.
Right.
In the current system, that output is enough to do the assignments. If that needs to be checked for AI usage or any plagiarism and everything, they can be done. We have technologies for it. But as you rightly pointed out, the main thing that is happening over there is that the thinking is being outsourced. And and probably there is a different analogy to think of it. Let's say the muscles that we don't use, they don't function after one point of time, right? And I think that's probably going to happen to our brain power as well. If we do not use it and we outsource everything to an LLM, that problem is going to happen. And I think this is something that is a bigger problem than meets the eye. Like when I go and teach, especially bachelor's and master's students, I see that as a big problem. I see that as a massive problem.
Absolutely. I would totally agree with that. Yeah.
All right. I think that was a fascinating detour into a lot of softer things. And then whenever I talk about these things or I engage in discussion about these things, I get the audience getting into two different factions. Either they relate to it totally, or they say that I want to understand more technical stuff of AI. But then these things are so crucial that just understanding these things and embodying these things in practice takes us a long way.
Right.
But then now, coming to a bit of your domain and finance, one thing that we see is that AI is evolving. AI is not going to solve everything right now, but it is getting more and more better at solving multiple things, right? And finance as an industry is like large. The domain is large. There are so many complexities. There are so many risk factors associated with what you do as professionals. So when you look at the finance, the entire sector, which are the areas that you think are most influenced by AI as of today?
Sure. So, firstly, commenting on what you shared earlier, so I think the tools as they are now, even as I mean, to the level that they are currently, and to the level that they can serve currently, I think they are good enough for a lot of functions. So of course the improvements will continue to be there, but then as they are they have a lot of functions, they have a lot of utilities, and I've been using them for a number of different tasks. So they are already good enough. And sometimes people think that it needs to, I mean, they will wait till it improves further, it becomes the best of the humans ability and all that. But I don't buy that argument. I mean, even if it is as good as an average human, it's already good enough, and it will continue to improve further. So I look at it from that lens. And now coming to your question of what areas in finance that this mostly influences at the moment and will continue to in the future. So one is accounting, let's say accounting treatment. So how we record accounting transactions. Take for example, currently there are a number of accounting standards. These are called IFRS, so International Financial Reporting Standards. So there are rules as to which how these standards are to be applied. For example, how is depreciation to be accounted for? Let's say when you buy a property, plant, and equipment, how do you have to account for that? Or when you are engaged into some sort of transaction or a leasing arrangement, how finance lease, operating lease, how do you account for that? So there are, ways to account for this transaction. So because these are rules based, there are rules as to how you record this transaction, and AI can easily do that. So earlier I shared that I had built a custom GPT wherein I fed these accounting standards to the custom GPT, and then I asked questions of it. How do you account for this transaction? It could readily address that. So that is one obvious area. So that's one thing. The other is audit. When you do audit, let's say you take a certain sample out of the whole population, and then you run tests on it, and then there are different ways you can audit a given sample. But with AI, what happens is, because it can process data at such a speed, and then it can process such a huge amount of data, so that sampling restriction which used to be there earlier will no longer be there, because the whole of the data can be even fed to it, and then it can run tests through those transactions. So audit is obviously there. So accounting, recording accounting transactions, audit, and the other is let's say predictive analysis. So you fed data into a system, an LLM system, and then you ask questions of it. So how is the trend looking like? How things will change over time? How is the price changing over time? So such sort of predictive analysis is there. And of course, there is the ratio analysis type of thing. Take for example, if you are analyzing profitability of a company, liquidity of a company, when you are analyzing company from an investor's perspective. So there are many different ratios. Let's say earnings per share, or current ratio, quick ratio, or return on investment, or things like that. Because these are simple formulae, and when you feed data into an LLM system, it can generate results immediately, and in the scale that you, or let's say a group of people cannot do. So there are already areas that LLM is supporting, and as LLM continues to evolve and get smarter, I think a lot of work in these areas will continue to be redundant. Redundant in the sense that people need not be involved in this. So these are some that obviously come to my mind, and these are the core areas that accountants and finance professionals have been working on, that LLM impacts even today and will continue to impact.
How do you see risks? Because all these language models, like sending information to these language models, some information might be proprietary as well. How do you see that trade-off? Because finance, obviously, critical, crucial information going into a language model. How are you seeing this as a professional?
So, of course, the element of confidentiality and having proprietary information given to, let's say, a third party is there. But let's say for a general user, even at the moment, if you don't want your prompts, your interactions with ChatGPT to be public, or the model not using the data to train itself, you can readily adjust that setting, and you can opt for your information not being used to train the model, and not being a public information. So that is already there for an individual user at the moment. So from an organization perspective, of course, you can enter into an enterprise agreement. So that's a contractual arrangement wherein let's say companies like OpenAI or even Gemini or any other LLMs, they are contractually bound to treat your information confidentially and not to use the information to train your models and to make it available publicly. And even at the moment, we are using tools like Google Sheets. We are using all the office-based softwares like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you name it. Wherein the third party is providing us with that service, and we rely on that because there is a contractual arrangement that the data will not be used. Will not be used to train themselves or even disseminate publicly. So all those guardrails are there. It's fine to be skeptic of it, but then there are arrangements which support you in maintaining confidentiality and to having the proprietary information limited to yourself.
But when I go and work with finance professionals in banks and other financial institutions, this is something that I see as the biggest hindrance for people to even try. So I put in ChatGPT, ChatGPT will take my data, or let's say I put in Gemini, Gemini will take my data.
Right.
So that is even creating a massive hindrance for senior leaders in organizations to actually come and adapt to these technologies. Do you think bigger financial organizations can actually take some steps in making sure that senior leaders understand these nuances a bit more better? Yeah.
There are already organizations which are at the frontier end of doing this. For example, I read earlier that PwC has PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the big four audit firms, accounting firms, has entered into an arrangement with OpenAI to provide thousands of access to its employees for the ChatGPT model. Of course, that's an enterprise-based arrangement. But when big four accounting firms like PwC, which have so much of responsibility, are already doing it, that sets the examples. And people can explore further, learn further, but I think if they have the latest information, there is no longer a debate or doubt that your data will be used to train the models, or let's say disseminate information publicly and all that. So there needs to be an education and awareness in that regard. But when, let's say, I recently read a news that US Department of Defense has entered into an arrangement with Grok XAI and is using it to develop itself, to train itself and all that. So there are companies like Palantir which help in data processing, data analysis and all that. So they are using this, and these are very sensitive areas. So Department of Defense and big four accounting firms and all that. So there are arrangements in place that help you to address that risk. Based on the current model, they don't even cost a lot. They don't even cost a lot. So there already are arrangements in place, and organizations can explore and learn further into that.
And if there is again, like, it can be a choice of any leader to trust or not trust even the most contractual scenario. So in that scenario, there is always ways in which organizations can build their systems in which data is not going to the main model as they would want it.
Exactly.
And in that sense, I think the conversation will come down to AI. Just like I see a lot of leaders who are like, AI probably is just a hype. It'll die down. I'll wait till the time the risk passes on. Do you think that's a good approach?
Not at all. And I would say there have been such strategies in a number of other areas as well. For example, let's say when printing press came along, let's say when electricity is a technology came along, even when internet is a technology came along, or computer is a technology came along, but those strategies didn't work. Take, for example, IBM used to be the market leader when it comes to producing computers. So they used to produce large mainframe computers, but then Microsoft, Apple, these other players came along. They developed personal computers and things like that, and they said that it's a fad and things will die down, and they they continued serving their own existing customer base. They had the resources in place if they really wanted to go in that direction, but that thinking eventually cut off that line of business of theirs. Another example could be these big film roll producing companies.
Yeah.
So earlier there used to be
Yeah.
manual cameras and all that, but then the digital cameras came along and
Yeah.
all that. So even in the case of AI, uh, I mean, from the very serious thinkers, from the very serious leaders and responsible leaders I've been reading and hearing. So this is a crucial technology, so much so that I think it can be considered in the same league as fire and electricity, or maybe even more so.
Yeah.
And this is going to seriously impact how we do things. So when I say do things, not only in the domain of work, but in the personal domain as well. And leaders considering this as a fad, something that is just a hype and something that will die down. I don't think that's a right strategy at all, because we can already see the results.
Yeah.
We can already see the strides being made, and how this is impacting work across the domains. So not a right strategy at all. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It's been amazing. I'm pretty sure we probably didn't even cover 10% of what we could talk in this one, but then definitely would have you next time, and then looking forward to it. And thank you so much.